Hello everyone, and welcome to the third tutorial in our beginner series. Today we'll be talking about starting hands. Why so tight? As always, you can find all of our poker tutorial videos at hobnob.games. So in our last tutorial video, we ended by talking about which cards should we be playing pre-flop. And I pretty much spelled out here the list of cards that we should be playing and which cards we should be folding. But one thing you might have noticed is that the number of cards that I'm recommending that you play is a relatively small percentage. In fact, this represents just 12% of all starting possible hands. That means 88% of the time, I'm recommending that you look at your two cards and just fold and watch everyone else play. And I know that sounds like a very unexciting version of poker to play, but this is part of the reason why only a small percentage of poker players are truly long-term winning players. Because most players don't have the discipline to sit there and fold 88% of the hands that they see. So if you stick with just this very small number, I guarantee that this one adjustment to your game alone is going to vastly improve your win rate. Now, as you start to get a little bit better at the game and a bit more comfortable playing post-flop, we can start to open this up a little bit. We can start to add some other hands to this range. But even I probably only play about 25% of all starting hands. And a lot of that even I vary it by the position that I'm in, the game that I'm playing in, how big the stack sizes are, and so forth. But at my max, I'm playing like 25% of hands. That means 75% of the time, I look at my two cards and I just fold them. I've heard some people describe poker as a game in which we are redistributing wealth from people that are less patient to people that are more patient. And I think that there's a lot of truth to that. You want to be more patient. So again, this game, winning at this game takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of patience. So stick to this small 12%. So here be an example. An amateur player might get dealt ace-8 offsuit and think, I've got a pretty strong hand here. I've got an ace. An ace is a good hand. It's ahead of so many other hands. Oh, someone made a pre-flop raise. Well, I have an ace. I'm probably going to call with this hand. That's their thought process. But I've recruited my good friend, Admiral Akbar, to tell us what he thinks about playing ace-8 offsuit. It's a trap. Absolutely, it is a trap. So here's the problem with playing a hand like ace-8 offsuit. What are you hoping that will happen? You're hoping that an ace will come on the flop and you can pair your ace. Well, the truth is that's only going to happen a relatively small percentage of the time, which means the vast percentage of the time you're not going to flop an ace and you're just going to have to fold your hand. But let's even say in the small percentage of time you do flop your ace. Now what? Your kicker is only an 8. You're dominated by ace-9, ace-10, all the bigger aces. So if suddenly a lot of money starts going into the pot and there's a raise and a re-raise, you're in a lot of trouble. Ace-8 is not the best hand. So you have two choices there. You can just fold and lose your money, or you can call down and probably get shown a better ace or two pair or something that beats ace-8. So playing ace-8, basically what you're never going to win a big hand with ace-8, or extremely rarely will you win a big one. The vast majority of the time you're just going to pay to see a flop and then have to fold the hand, and you're just slowly leaking away money. You might win a small pot, but you're almost never going to win a large pot. But if you don't fold this hand, then you can lose very large pots. So it's absolutely a trap hand. It's part of the reason why we want to play only strong hands. So you guys are now smart enough to fold this hand. That's what we do with ace-8 offsuit when we see it. Just another example, Jack-10 suited. When I first started playing poker, I loved Jack-10. It had a possibility of making straights, making a Jack-high pair. There's just something about Jack-10, Queen-Jack too. I was a sucker for Queen-Jack. I just loved playing Queen-Jack. But the reality is you probably took the first 100 times I played Queen-Jack, or if you take 100 beginner players and take every time they play Jack-10, I guarantee they might win a pot every now and then. It's not like you can never win a hand with these types of cards. It's just that the vast majority of the time, if you play it 100 times, the net result is going to be a loss. You just cannot long-term win with these cards. They're just not strong enough cards in order to be long-term winners. So when you see Jack-10 offsuit, Admiral Akbar, can you clue us in? Absolutely, it's a trap. So many amateur players want to play with this hand. They'll call raises with it, and those are massive mistakes. It's a mistake. You guys are now smart enough that you just simply fold these trash hands. So weak players play lots of hands pre-flop. And you'll see this. This is very common, especially at 1-2 and 1-3, and even sometimes at 2-5. You'll see weak players, and part of the reason they're weak is because they don't want to be bored. They want lots of action, so they're going to play like maybe 50, 60, 70% of hands they're going to call with pre-flop. The problem is that means you're taking a lot of weak hands post-flop. And when you do that, you basically have two choices. If you have weak hands post-flop, then you can either fold a lot post-flop, so you miss everything, or you make a weak hand, which is very common with weak cards, and you just have to fold. And that way you're paying to see flops and then folding, and you're slowly leaking away money. Or you can make another decision, which is a much more disastrous decision, and that is keep calling down post-flop with your weak hands. And that's how you end up losing all of your money. In fact, if players who do this, who see lots of flops and then don't fold them post-flop, these are people that we call fish. You don't want to be a fish. You want to be the opposite. You want to be the sharks who's feeding on the fish. So if you see a player at your table doing exactly this, seeing a lot of hands to the flop and then not folding and seeing calling all the way down the river with weak hands, stay on that table. You want to play with this player all day long. What you don't want to do is be this player or play like this player. Pro players only play strong hands. They're only willing to go into battle with strong cards. So one of the most important things you could do to improve your poker win rate is to get rid of playing all these trash hands like ace-8 offsuit and jack-10 offsuit, and only play the strong hands that I recommended earlier. I know it's a more boring form of poker, but if you really want to be a winning poker player, this is part of the strategy. So again, you want to consistently be bringing guns to knife fights, not the other way around. And another advantage, though, is that even though you end up folding a lot pre-flop, when you do play, with those 12% of times when you are playing, you always go in with strong hands. Strong hands tend to make even stronger hands post-flop, which allows you to stay aggressive. So you don't have to fold a lot post-flop, and you can do a lot of calling and raising with your hands post-flop if you only go in with strong hands. So in our next tutorial, we'll be talking about what we should be doing with these hands. And since we're only going in with strong hands, we can be aggressive. So we'll talk about which hands you should be raising with pre-flop and which hands you should be 3-betting with pre-flop. As always, you can find all of our tutorials at hobnob.games. I look forward to seeing you during our next session.